The desert sun beat down on Jake Morrison as he checked his scanner for the third time that morning. The device showed something strange buried deep under the sand, something that still had power after all these years. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the hole he had been digging for 3 days. Most salvage runners would have given up by now, but Jake was stubborn. His father always said that stubbornness was the family curse. The scanner beeped again. Whatever was down there was big, maybe the biggest find of his career. Jake grabbed his shovel and kept digging. The Mojave Desert was full of old tech from before the Great Collapse, back when Earth had money and power and ships that could reach the stars. Now, people lived in scattered settlements, fighting over water and scraps. Jake made his living finding those scraps and selling them in New Phoenix. By noon, his shovel hit something hard. Not rock, metal. Jake dropped to his knees and brushed away the sand with his hands. The metal was smooth and dark, not rusted or damaged like most salvage. His heart started beating faster. This was old tech, really old tech, maybe even pre-war. Jake spent the next hour clearing more sand. The metal surface kept going, stretching out in both directions. This was not just some buried equipment. This was huge. He pulled out his climbing gear and rappelled down into the hole, following the metal surface deeper. His headlamp caught markings on the hull. Letters, words, ECS Valkyrie. Jake stopped breathing. ECS meant Earth Command Ship. Those vessels were legends, stories that old people told about the war against the aliens. The Creche. Jake had always thought those stories were half myth, exaggerated tales about humanity's last stand 500 years ago. But here was proof. A real command ship, buried under the desert. He pressed his hand against the hull just to feel it. The metal was cool despite the desert heat. The moment his palm touched the surface, something happened. Lights flickered along the hull. A humming sound filled the air. Jake jumped back, his hand going to the small pistol at his belt. A voice spoke, calm and clear. Biometric scan complete. DNA markers confirmed. Welcome back, Admiral Morrison. It is good to assist you again. Jake looked around wildly. Who said that? Where are you? A hologram appeared in front of him, a simple blue outline of a human figure. I am Victor, the artificial intelligence of the ECS Valkyrie. You have been gone for a very long time, Admiral. 512 years, 4 months, and 17 days. I'm not an admiral, Jake said. I'm a salvage runner. My name is Jake Morrison, and I've never been in the military. The hologram tilted its head. Your genetic markers are a perfect match for Admiral Catherine Morrison, commander of this vessel. If you are not the admiral, then you are her descendant, the Morrison bloodline. Jake felt dizzy. He sat down hard on the sand. Catherine Morrison? The Admiral from the old stories? Admiral Morrison was the finest officer in Earth's defense force, Victor said. She led the final battle against the Creche invasion. When defeat was certain, she made a choice. She led the enemy fleet away from Earth and disappeared into this desert. I have been waiting here ever since, as she commanded, waiting for someone of her blood to find me. Why? Jake asked. Why hide a whole ship in the desert? Because the Admiral knew the Creche would return, Victor said simply. She could not defeat them 500 years ago. Earth did not have the strength. But she believed that someday, someone from her family would find this ship, someone who could finish what she started. Jake laughed, but it sounded hollow. You've got the wrong guy. I dig up old junk and sell it. I'm not a warrior. I'm not a hero. The Admiral did not need you to be a hero, Victor said. She needed you to be human. That is enough. Before Jake could respond, Victor's hologram flickered. Warning! I am detecting movement in high orbit. Scanning. A pause. 3 Creche scout probes have entered the solar system. They are searching for inhabited planets. Jake felt cold despite the heat. The Creche are real? They're coming back? They never left, Victor said. They have been rebuilding their fleet. Now they are ready to finish what they started 500 years ago. Earth settlements have no defenses, no ships, no weapons. When the Kresh arrive in force, humanity will be exterminated. Jake stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. How long do we have? The main fleet will arrive in approximately 6 months. 6 months, Jake repeated. He looked at the massive ship buried under the sand. Can this thing still fly? All systems are functional, Victor said. But one ship cannot defeat the Kresh fleet. We need a crew. We need allies. We need time to prepare. Jake rubbed his face with both hands. This morning he had been looking for salvage to sell. Now he was standing next to a warship from legend, being told that aliens were coming to kill everyone on Earth. It was insane. He should walk away. He should pretend he never found this place. But he thought about New Phoenix, about the people he knew, the kids playing in the streets, the families trying to survive in a broken world. If the Kresh came, all of them would die. I don't know how to command a ship, Jake said. The Admiral encoded her knowledge into her genetic line, Victor said. It is within you, dormant but present. I can help you access it, train you, but we must begin immediately. Jake took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He looked up at the sky, wondering if the Kresh were up there right now, watching. Okay, he said. Let's get this ship out of the sand. Then we figure out how to save the world. Excellent, Admiral Morrison, Victor said. Just call me Jake, he said. I'm not an admiral, not yet anyway. But as he climbed back up to the surface to get his excavation equipment, Jake could not shake the feeling that his life had just changed forever. The desert wind blew across the sand, and somewhere deep in his mind, he felt something stir, a memory that was not his own. A woman's voice, strong and determined. Finish what I started. Jake smiled grimly. I'll try, he whispered to the ghost of his ancestor. I'll try. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the command center of the Valkyrie and tried not to feel overwhelmed. The ship was enormous, big enough to hold 300 crew members. Right now, it held exactly one person, him and Victor, who was not exactly a person. Getting the ship out of the sand had taken 2 weeks of hard work. Victor had helped, using the ship's systems to clear away tons of desert. Now the Valkyrie sat in a hidden canyon covered with camouflage netting. Jake had spent the last week exploring every deck, every corridor, trying to understand what his ancestor had left him. The ship was incredible. It had weapons that could crack a moon in half, shields that could withstand a nuclear blast, engines that could push the vessel to near-light speed. But none of that mattered without a crew. Jake could not fly this ship alone. Victor, Jake said, I need to go to New Phoenix. I need to find people who can help. That is dangerous, the AI replied. If the wrong people learn about this ship, they will try to take it from you. I know, Jake said. But I can't do this alone. I need an engineer, a pilot, someone who knows about the Kresh. Victor was silent for a moment. Very well. But be careful who you trust, Jake. Desperate people do desperate things. Jake took his old truck into the city that afternoon. New Phoenix was built on the ruins of the old world, a sprawling mess of metal shelters and repurposed buildings. 3 different factions controlled different parts of the city, and they spent more time fighting each other than working together. Jake hated the politics of it all. He started his search at the Rusty Gear, a bar where ex-military types gathered. Jake nursed a warm beer and listened to conversations. Most people were talking about the usual things, water shortages and power failures. But one woman sitting alone caught his attention. She was older, maybe 40, with short dark hair and tired eyes. She was reading from a data pad, technical schematics of some kind. Jake sat down across from her. Those look complicated. She looked up, annoyed. They are, and I'm busy. You're Megan Carter, Jake said. He had heard about her. a brilliant engineer who got kicked out of the Atlantic Federation military for refusing to build weapons she thought were too dangerous. Her eyes narrowed. "How do you know my name?" "I have a job offer," Jake said. "Something that might interest you." "Not interested," Megan said, looking back at her datapad. "Not even if I told you I found an ECS ship, a real one from the war?" Megan's head snapped up. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," Jake said quietly. "I found the Valkyrie, Admiral Morrison's flagship, and I need an engineer who can help me get it ready for combat." Megan stared at him for a long time. "You're serious? You actually found it?" "Come with me," Jake said. "I'll show you." 2 hours later, Megan stood on the Valkyrie's bridge with her mouth open. She walked around slowly, touching control panels with reverent hands. "This is impossible," she whispered. "This ship should not exist. It's too advanced, too perfect." "Can you work on it?" Jake asked. "Can I work on it?" Megan laughed. "I would kill to work on this ship. These systems are 50 years ahead of anything we have now, maybe more." She turned to Jake. "Why me? Why trust me?" "Because you got kicked out for having principles," Jake said. "I need people I can trust. The Kresh are coming back, Megan. In less than 6 months. This ship might be our only chance." Megan's smile faded. "The Kresh are real?" "Very real," Victor's voice said from the speakers. "And they are very dangerous." Megan jumped. "Who said that?" "That's Victor," Jake said. "The ship's AI. Get used to him. He talks a lot." Over the next 2 weeks, Jake found more crew members. Kyle Brooks was a cargo pilot who dreamed of flying something faster than a rusty freight hauler. He nearly cried when Jake showed him the Valkyrie's fighter bay with its sleek combat ships. Lisa Wong was a historian who specialized in the old war. She had been searching for proof that Admiral Morrison survived, and now she had it. Together, they started preparing. Megan worked on the ship's systems, making sure everything still functioned. Kyle practiced in the simulators, learning to fly the fighters. Lisa studied everything she could find about the Kresh, their tactics and technology, and Jake trained with Victor, learning to command. The training was strange. When Jake sat in the command chair and closed his eyes, he could feel memories that were not his own. He saw battles he had never fought. He heard orders he had never given. His ancestors' knowledge was there, buried in his genes, waiting for him to access it. "You are improving," Victor said one evening. "Your tactical instincts are strong." "I'm just remembering what Admiral Morrison knew," Jake said. "No," Victor said. "You are learning. The Admiral gave you the foundation, but you are building on it. You are becoming your own kind of leader." Jake hoped that was true, because in 4 months the Kresh would arrive, and he still had no idea if he was ready. Then one night, everything changed. Jake was sleeping in his small room on the ship when alarms started blaring. He ran to the bridge in his underwear and bare feet. "Victor, what's happening?" "Kresh probe entering Earth's atmosphere," Victor said. "It is heading for the settlement of Riverside. Population 2,000. "Can we stop it?" Jake asked. "If we launch now, yes," Victor said. "But we will be seen. Everyone will know about this ship." Jake did not hesitate. "Wake up the crew. Power up all systems. We're going to save those people." 10 minutes later, the Valkyrie rose from the canyon in a pillar of blue fire. Jake sat in the command chair, his hands steady on the controls. Megan managed the weapons. Kyle prepared a fighter for launch. Lisa tracked the probe's position. The Kresh probe was a small thing, maybe the size of a house, but it had enough firepower to level a city. It was already firing on Riverside when the Valkyrie arrived. Jake saw buildings exploding, people running in panic. "Target locked," Megan said. "Fire," Jake ordered. The Valkyrie's main cannon spoke once. A beam of pure energy crossed the sky and hit the probe dead center. The alien machine exploded in a ball of fire and fell into the desert. For a moment, there was silence. Then Jake's radio exploded with voices. People from all three factions demanding to know what ship that was, who was commanding it, where it came from. Jake opened a channel to all of them. "This is Jake Morrison, commander of the ECS Valkyrie. The Kresh are returning. If we don't work together, we all die. Anyone who wants to help save Earth, come find me. Everyone else can get out of my way." He closed the channel and looked at his crew. They were all staring at him with wide eyes. "Well," Kyle said finally, "I guess we're committed now." Jake smiled. "I guess we are." The message Jake sent changed everything. Within 24 hours, representatives from all three factions arrived at the canyon where the Valkyrie was hidden. They came with demands, threats, and promises. Everyone wanted to control the ship. Jake refused them all. "This ship belongs to Earth," he told them. "Not to New Phoenix, not to the Atlantic Federation, not to the Pacific Union. Earth. And right now, Earth needs to stop fighting itself and start preparing for what's coming." The politicians did not like that answer. General Paul Hendricks from the Pacific Union was the worst. He was a tall man with cold eyes and a voice that expected obedience. "You're just a salvage runner," he said to Jake. "You have no authority to command a military vessel." "Then go find someone better," Jake said. "But do it fast, because the Kresh will be here in 3 months." Hendricks left angry, but others stayed. People who believed Jake. People who wanted to help. Over the next week, volunteers arrived at the canyon. Former soldiers, engineers, pilots. People who were tired of watching humanity tear itself apart. Greg Palmer was one of the first. He was a veteran of the faction wars, a commander who had seen too much fighting between humans. He was 50 years old with gray hair and a steady presence that made people trust him. "I'll be your first officer," he told Jake, "if you'll have me." Jake shook his hand. "Welcome aboard." More people came. Emma Sullivan, a scientist who studied the few Kresh specimens in museums. Ben Hayes, a tactical officer who deserted from the Atlantic Federation to join Jake's cause. Amy Rodriguez, a communications expert. Chris Taylor, an engineer who worked with Megan. Nicole Price, a fighter pilot who was even better than Kyle. But people were not enough. They needed more ships. Victor solved that problem by revealing a secret. Admiral Morrison had not hidden just the Valkyrie. She had hidden an entire fleet. "There are coordinates," Victor explained, showing Jake a holographic map. "The Admiral buried other vessels before her final battle. She knew one ship would not be enough to save Earth." Jake felt hope for the first time in weeks. "Where are they?" 3 destroyers are buried in the Sahara Desert. A carrier is hidden beneath the Arctic ice. Weapon supplies are scattered across the planet. And there is an orbital defense network that has been dormant but functional. "How did nobody find these things in 500 years? Megan asked. "The Admiral was very thorough," Victor said, "and she did not trust anyone except her own bloodline. Only someone with Morrison genes can activate the other ships." It took 2 weeks to retrieve the other vessels. Jake led teams to each location, and his presence activated the sleeping ships just like the Valkyrie. The destroyers were smaller, but fast and deadly. The carrier could hold 50 fighter craft. Together, they formed the core of a real fleet. But activating the ships caused problems. General Hendricks saw Jake's growing power and decided to take the Valkyrie by force. He brought a company of soldiers to the canyon one morning, backed by armored vehicles and heavy weapons. Jake was ready. He had moved most of the fleet to different locations, and the Valkyrie's shields were up. When Hendricks demanded entry to the ship, Jake stepped out to meet him face to face. "Go home, General," Jake said calmly. "We don't have time for this." "You're hoarding military assets during a crisis," Hendricks said. "That's treason." "Treason against who?" Jake asked. "There is no Earth government. There's just 3 factions that hate each other." He gestured at the soldiers surrounding them. "You want to fight me while the Kresh are coming? Go ahead. But when the aliens arrive and everyone is dead, history will remember you as the man who killed humanity's last chance." The soldiers looked uncomfortable. Some of them lowered their weapons. They did not want to fight other humans while aliens threatened Earth. Hendricks saw his support crumbling. "This is not over," he said, and left. Jake hoped the general would give up, but he was wrong. 3 days later, while Jake was in the Arctic supervising the carrier recovery, Hendricks tried to board the Valkyrie with a strike team. He did not count on Greg Palmer being ready. The first officer sealed the ship and activated its weapons. The standoff lasted 6 tense hours before Hendricks retreated again. That incident changed things. People across Earth saw footage of Hendricks trying to seize the ship while Jake was trying to save everyone. Public opinion turned against the general. Even the Pacific Union leadership distanced themselves from him. Jake used the opportunity to make another broadcast. "I don't want to rule anyone," he said. "I don't want power or glory. I just want to make sure we're all alive in 3 months. So here's my offer. I'll share everything I found. The technology, the ships, the weapons. I'll train anyone who wants to fight, but in return you have to work together. No more faction wars, no more fighting over scraps. We're one species, one planet, and if we don't act like it, we'll die like it." The response was overwhelming. Thousands of volunteers came forward. All 3 factions sent their best officers to train with Jake's growing crew. Engineers studied the old technology. Pilots learned to fly the fighters. Soldiers prepared to defend their world. But the ships were not enough. Emma Sullivan warned Jake that the Kresh fleet would have hundreds of vessels. Even with the carriers and destroyers, humanity was outnumbered 10-1. "We need an advantage," Greg Palmer said during a strategy meeting. "Something they won't expect." Lisa Wong had an idea. "The orbital defense network. If we can get it fully operational, we can create a kill zone around Earth, force them to fight on our terms." "Can we do that in time?" Jake asked. Chris Taylor nodded. "If we push hard, maybe. But it'll take every engineer we have." "Do it," Jake said. "Whatever it takes." The next 2 months were a blur of constant work. Jake barely slept. He trained new crews, planned battle strategies, and dealt with endless political problems. The factions were cooperating, but old grudges died hard. Fights broke out. Resources were disputed. Jake spent half his time keeping the peace instead of preparing for war. Through it all, Victor helped. The AI coordinated logistics, ran simulations, and provided tactical advice. Jake came to think of Victor as more than just a machine. He was like the voice of Admiral Morrison herself, guiding them toward survival. Then, 2 weeks before the Kresh were scheduled to arrive, everything changed. Long-range sensors detected the alien fleet entering the outer solar system. They were early, and there were more of them than expected. Over 300 ships, including massive battle cruisers that dwarfed anything humanity had. Jake stood on the Valkyrie's bridge, looking at the tactical display. His small fleet looked pathetic compared to that armada. 47 human ships against 300 alien ones. "We're not ready," Kyle said quietly. "We'll never be ready," Jake replied. "But we're going to fight anyway." Amy opened a channel to all of Earth. Jake took a breath and spoke. "This is Jake Morrison. The Kresh fleet has arrived early. They'll reach Earth in 7 days. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But 500 years ago, Admiral Morrison stood against these same aliens with even less than we have now. She didn't win by being stronger. She won by being human, by refusing to quit, by standing together when it mattered most." He paused. "Admiral Morrison saved us once by buying time. Now it's our turn to finish what she started. We stand together, or we die alone. There is no third option." He closed the channel and looked at his crew. They were young, inexperienced, and terrified, but they were also determined. Human. 7 days, Greg Palmer said. "What do we do?" Jake smiled grimly. "We finish activating the defense network. We drill every crew until they can fly in their sleep, and we show the creche that humans are still here. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly in space, beautiful and fragile. Jake had spent his whole life scavenging in the desert, looking for treasures from the past. Now he had to protect the future. "Let's get to work," he said. The week before the battle was the longest of Jake's life. Every hour brought the creche closer to Earth. Every hour meant more drills, more preparations, more impossible decisions. Jake barely left the bridge. He existed on coffee and determination. The defensive network was 90% operational. Chris and his team had worked miracles, reactivating orbital weapons that had been dormant for 5 centuries. The platforms were old but deadly, armed with missiles and energy weapons. If Jake could lure the creche into range, the platforms might even the odds a little. But even with the platforms, the math was brutal. 300 creche ships against 47 human vessels. The alien ships were bigger, faster, and better armed. In any normal battle, humanity would be crushed in minutes. Jake was not planning a normal battle. On the 3rd day, something strange started happening to him. He was reviewing tactical plans when his vision blurred. Suddenly, he was not on the Valkyrie anymore. He was somewhere else, seeing through someone else's eyes. A woman's eyes. Admiral Catherine Morrison stood on a bridge just like this one, watching a creche fleet approach Earth. But this was 500 years ago, the final battle of the First War. Jake could feel her emotions, fear, determination, and a terrible certainty that she could not win. The vision faded, leaving Jake gasping. Megan ran to him. "Jake, what happened?" "I saw her," Jake said. "The Admiral. I saw what she saw." Victor's voice was quiet. "The genetic memory is strengthening. The closer you come to battle, the more you connect with your ancestor. This is what she intended. Her experience is becoming yours." Over the next few days, the visions came more frequently. Jake saw the Admiral's entire last battle. He watched her make impossible choices. Sacrifice ships to save others. Lead the creche away from Earth at the cost of her own life. He felt her pain when good people died following her orders. And he felt her hope when she buried the Valkyrie in the desert, encoding her knowledge into her DNA. "I couldn't save them," the Admiral's voice said in one vision. "But maybe you can. Finish what I started." The visions gave Jake something precious. Understanding. He began to see patterns in creche tactics, weaknesses they did not know they had. The aliens fought with overwhelming force, expecting enemies to break. They did not adapt well to chaos or unpredictability. That gave Jake an idea. "We're not going to fight them straight up," he told his command staff. "We're going to make them think we're broken, then hit them when they're not expecting it." Greg Palmer frowned. "Intentional retreat? That's risky." "Everything about this is risky," Jake said. He pulled up a tactical map. "We let them push us back toward Earth. They'll think they're winning. Then we spring the trap. The orbital platforms activate, cutting their fleet in half. And while they're confused, we hit their command ship with everything we have." "Their command ship is the most heavily defended vessel in the fleet," Emma Sullivan said. "Getting close enough to damage it will cost us." "I know," Jake said quietly. "But if we take out their leader, the rest might break. The creche fight as a hierarchy. Kill the top, and the bottom falls apart." It was a desperate plan, but then again, everything was desperate now. On the 5th day, a creche transmission came through. Their commander, a being called War Master Thex, wanted to speak with humanity's leader. Jake took the call alone. The hologram that appeared was nightmare fuel. War Master Thex was huge, covered in dark armor that looked like it had grown from his skin. 4 eyes glowed red in a face that was all sharp angles and teeth. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping on metal. "Humans," Thex said, "you are discovered. You have hidden from us for 5 centuries, but you cannot hide anymore. We offer you one chance at survival. Surrender the one called Morrison. Give us the heir to the Admiral who escaped us, and we will make your deaths quick." Jake kept his face calm. "And if we refuse?" "Then we will take our time with your species," Thex said. "We will exterminate you slowly, painfully, and completely. Your world will become a monument to the price of resistance." "I've got a better idea," Jake said. "How about you turn around and leave? Because if you come to Earth, we're going to do to you what we've done to every enemy who ever threatened us. We're going to break you." Thex laughed, a horrible sound. "You have 47 ships. We have 300. You are insects compared to us." "Yeah, well, insects are hard to step on," Jake said. "See you in 2 days, War Master. Try not to die too quickly." He cut the transmission. His hands were shaking, but he felt good. Let Thex think humans were crazy. That would help. That night, Jake could not sleep. He walked through the Valkyrie's corridors, checking on crew members. They were all preparing in their own ways. Kyle was in the simulator, flying practice missions. Megan was running final checks on every system. Lisa was recording a message for future generations, just in case none of them survived. Jake found Greg Palmer in the observation deck, staring at Earth through the window. The planet looked so peaceful from here, blue and white and beautiful. "I've been in a lot of battles," Greg said without looking away from Earth. "Fought in the faction wars for 20 years. Killed people I used to call friends." He turned to Jake. "But I've never felt good about a fight until now. For the first time, I'm fighting for something that actually matters." "We might all die," Jake said. "I know," Greg replied, "but at least we'll die for something real." On the 6th day, Victor revealed a secret he had been keeping. The AI asked Jake to come to a secure room deep in the ship. Inside was a small chamber with a holographic projector. Victor activated it, and Admiral Catherine Morrison appeared. She looked tired, wearing a damaged uniform and sitting in what looked like an emergency shelter. This recording was from her final hours, 500 years ago. "If you're seeing this," the Admiral said, "then you are my descendant, and you found my ship. I'm proud of you. I know you're scared. I was scared too every day of the war, but being scared is okay. It means you understand what's at stake." She stood up, looking directly at the camera. "The ship doesn't make the Admiral. The crew does. Trust them, and they'll follow you anywhere. Don't try to be like me. Be better than me. I couldn't win my war. Maybe you can win yours." She smiled, tired but genuine. "I won't live to see tomorrow, but my blood will. And when my descendant finds this ship, they'll finish what we started. They'll prove that humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive. We refuse to die. We refuse to quit. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us strong." The Admiral saluted. "Good luck, Jake Morrison. I believe in you, and I'll be with you, in your blood and your bones when the battle begins. Show them why we're still here after 500 years. The hologram faded. Jake stood alone in the silent room, tears running down his face. He was not crying from sadness. He was crying from pride, from determination, from a connection to a woman he never met but knew in his soul. "Thank you," he whispered to the empty air. The next day, the Kresh fleet reached Earth's orbit. 300 ships, dark and massive, blocking out the stars. Jake watched them on the tactical display and felt no fear, only certainty. Amy opened channels to all human ships. Jake stood in the center of the bridge, surrounded by his crew, his family. "This is it," he said. "Everyone knows their jobs. Everyone knows the plan. When the shooting starts, it's going to be chaos and terror, and people are going to die. But we are going to fight until we can't fight anymore. And then we're going to fight some more. Because that's what humans do. That's what Admiral Morrison did. That's what we're going to do." He looked at each of his crew in turn. "It's been an honor serving with you all." "The honor is ours," Greg said quietly, and everyone on the bridge nodded. Outside, the Kresh fleet began moving toward Earth. Jake sat in the command chair and felt his ancestors' knowledge flowing through him, 500 years of waiting finally reaching this moment. "All ships," he said calmly. "This is Admiral Morrison. Let's show these bastards that we're still here." The battle was about to begin. The Kresh came like a storm of metal and fire. Their fleet filled the sky above Earth, 300 ships strong, each one a weapon designed to destroy worlds. Jake watched them approach on the tactical display, his heart steady despite the impossible odds. "All human ships, hold formation," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." The Kresh attacked in waves, exactly as Jake expected. They did not respect human technology, did not believe 47 small ships could threaten them. That arrogance was their first mistake. The first wave hit hard. 20 Kresh destroyers opened fire with energy weapons that turned space into a light show. Jake's fleet scattered according to plan, ships breaking formation and retreating toward Earth. It looked like panic. It looked like humans were running, but they were not running. They were leading. 10 more seconds, Jake said calmly. 9, 8. Kyle and Nicole flew their fighters through the Kresh formation, dodging fire that should have killed them. They moved like water, unpredictable and impossible to hit. The Kresh tried to follow, pushing deeper toward Earth. 3, 2, 1, now. The orbital defense platforms activated. 200 weapons that had been dormant for 500 years suddenly came to life, targeting every Kresh ship in range. The aliens had followed Jake's retreating fleet right into the kill zone, missiles launched by the thousands. Energy beams crossed the darkness. 30 Kresh ships died in the first 10 seconds, another 20 in the next 30 seconds. The perfect alien formation turned into chaos. "All ships attack!" Jake ordered. "Hit them while they're confused." The human fleet turned as one and charged back into the fight. Small ships against giants, but moving with purpose and coordination the Kresh could not match. Megan fired the Valkyrie's main weapons, each shot carefully placed to hit weak points that Emma had identified from her research. A Kresh battlecruiser exploded, then another. But the aliens were adapting now, forming up and returning fire. Human ships started dying. The destroyer Ranger took a direct hit and broke apart. The carrier Phoenix lost half its flight deck to a missile strike. "Casualties mounting," Greg reported. "We've lost 15 ships." "Keep going," Jake said. His hands gripped the command chair. Every death was his responsibility, but he could not stop now. "Execute Phase 2. Phase 2 was chaos, pure human unpredictability. Every ship broke formation and attacked independently, using tactics that made no military sense. Ships flew at speeds that should have torn them apart. Pilots rammed damaged vessels into enemy cruisers. Engineers overloaded reactors and turned ships into bombs. It was not elegant, it was not clean, it was desperate and wild and completely insane by Kresh standards. And it was working. The aliens did not know how to fight enemies who treated death as just another tactic. They kept trying to form proper battle lines while humans attacked from every direction at once. War Master Thex's perfect fleet was falling apart. But so was Jake's fleet, 20 ships gone now, then 25. The survivors were all damaged, running on emergency power and determination. "Their command ship is moving forward," Amy reported. "Thex is coming to finish us himself." Jake felt a memory flash through him. Admiral Morrison in her final battle making the same choice. Charge the command ship, kill the leader or die trying. "Greg, you have the fleet," Jake said. "I'm taking the Valkyrie in." "Jake, that's suicide," Megan said. "Maybe," Jake replied, "but if I take out Thex, the rest will break. Trust me." He did not wait for arguments. The Valkyrie turned toward the Kresh command ship, a massive vessel 3 times their size. Every weapon on both ships opened fire at the same time. The Valkyrie's shields held, but barely. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hull breaches on 4 decks. Main reactor at 60%. Weapons overheating. Keep firing, Jake ordered. The two ships circled each other like ancient warriors, trading blow after blow. The Valkyrie was faster, but the command ship was stronger. Jake used every trick his ancestor had taught him, every maneuver she had perfected. He made the Valkyrie dance through space, dodging when he could, taking hits when he had to. "Shield failure in 30 seconds, Megan warned. Jake saw his opening. The command ship had focused all power to forward weapons, leaving its side exposed. One shot, perfectly placed, could crack its reactor. "Divert everything to the main cannon," Jake ordered. "Life support, engines, everything." "If you do that and miss, we're dead in space," Greg said. "Then I won't miss," Jake replied. The Valkyrie's main cannon charged, drawing power from every system. The lights dimmed. The temperature dropped. Jake felt the ship around him, felt its connection to him through 500 years of Morrison blood. "Fire," he whispered. The cannon spoke. A beam of pure energy crossed the space between ships and hit the Kresh command vessel exactly where Jake aimed. The reactor containment failed. The massive ship tore itself apart from the inside, metal and fire spreading across space. For a moment, everything stopped. Both sides paused, watching the command ship die. Then Jake opened a channel to all Kresh vessels. "Your leader is dead," he said. "Go home. If you stay, we will kill you all. We're not like other species you've conquered. We don't know when to quit. We don't know when we're beaten. We are humans, and this is our world, and we will fight you forever if we have to." Silence. Then the Kresh fleet turned. Every ship together began to retreat. They broke and ran, fleeing from a species they thought was weak, fleeing from enemies who refused to die. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. People were crying, laughing, screaming with relief and joy. Jake slumped in his chair, exhausted beyond measure. "We did it," Kyle said, his voice full of wonder. "We actually did it." But the cost was terrible. 38 of 47 ships destroyed or crippled. Thousands of people dead. The Valkyrie itself was barely functional, held together by hope and damaged systems. Jake spent the next week helping with rescue operations. Every survivor pulled from wreckage felt like a small victory. Every name added to the memorial list felt like a weight on his soul. When the factions came to him with offers of leadership, Jake refused them all. "I'm not a politician," he told them. "I'm just someone who did what needed doing." Instead, he proposed something different, a unified Earth Defense Force, commanded by a council representing all people, not just powerful factions. The Valkyrie would serve as its flagship, but Jake would not rule. He would teach. 6 months later, Jake stood in a new training facility, watching young recruits learn to fly and fight and command. The solar system was safe for now, but the Kresh were still out there. Earth needed to be ready. Megan ran the engineering division, teaching others the secrets of the old technology. Kyle headed the fighter academy, training pilots who would protect Earth's space. Lisa wrote the official history of both wars, making sure future generations understood what had been sacrificed. Greg Palmer became the first commander of the Unified Defense Force. Amy coordinated the new early warning network. Emma studied the stars, searching for new threats and new allies. One day, Jake walked alone to the Valkyrie's bridge. The ship was being refitted, repaired, made ready for whatever came next. Victor's hologram appeared beside him. "You did well, Jake," the AI said. "The Admiral would be proud." Jake smiled. "I'm not done yet. Someone has to train the next generation." "Indeed," Victor said. "The Admiral left one final message in my core systems. She wanted me to tell her descendants something after the battle was won." "What's that?" Victor's tone was warm. She said, "You finished what I started. You proved that humans don't just survive. We thrive. We refuse to quit. That's our strength. That's our legacy. Pass it on." Jake looked out at Earth, blue and beautiful and safe. For now. "I will," he promised. "We'll make sure no one ever forgets what happened here. What humans can do when we stand together." He walked through the ship's corridors one last time, running his hand along the walls. This vessel had carried his ancestor into her final battle. It had carried him into his first, and now it would carry others into whatever battles came next. In the main corridor, Jake stopped. The crew had installed a memorial, a plaque with 2 names and a promise. "In memory of Admiral Catherine Morrison and all who fought in the Exodus Wars. In honor of Admiral Jake Morrison and all who fought in the Return War, and in promise to those who will fight for tomorrow, we are still here." Jake smiled and continued walking. Outside, in the training yard, young people were learning to fly fighters and command ships. They were loud and enthusiastic and full of hope. They did not know yet what war really cost, but they would learn. And when they did, they would be ready. Because that was what humans did. They learned. They adapted. They refused to quit. A young cadet approached Jake nervously. "Sir, is it true you found the Valkyrie buried in the desert?" "It's true," Jake said. "And the ship really talked to you? Recognized you?" "It did," Jake confirmed. "It said, 'Good to assist you again, Admiral, 500 years later. Best day of my life. And the scariest." The cadet grinned. "I hope someday I can command a ship like that." Jake put a hand on the young person's shoulder. "Then work hard, stay humble, and remember what you're fighting for, not glory. Not power. Just the simple right to still be here tomorrow. That's enough." The cadet saluted and ran off to join their squad. Jake watched them go, feeling old and young at the same time. Above, the Valkyrie caught the sunlight, gleaming like a promise. The ship that had waited 500 years for its crew to return. The ship that had helped save Earth when all seemed lost. Jake turned and walked toward his office, where lesson plans and training schedules waited. He had work to do, because the Kresh might come back someday, or something worse might appear from the stars. But humans would be ready. They would stand together. They would remember what their ancestors had sacrificed, and they would still be here, stubborn and determined and gloriously, defiantly alive.